There is one factor in this that I want to pull out, though, which is nice, which is this here. Some railway this is a footnote, here. Some railway managers in Britain have been highly successful in maximising the use of rolling stock by tweaking timetables, and each step will have been legitimised by net revenue benefits. However, incremental progression toward a disjointed timetable, albeit unintended, may have had damaging, intangible effects on public perception, and it is not certain that the sum of separate decisions over time yields the most efficient outcome. Very nice indeed. This is a key point, right? And I also see me tweeting a very similar thing, because in King's Cross at about 6:30 you have the 1827, the 1830 and 1835 departures northwards from King's Cross. Some might argue this is an efficient use of capacity, and it sure might look that way for timetable planners, but it's a nightmare for station and train staff and passengers, even seasoned ones. Now, what's funny is that was 2022. There we are, 2022. What year is it now? It's 2025, and the condition is now that there are 5 trains that depart in quick succession within the space of 15 minutes at that point, because the 2025 timetable is absolutely bonkers on the East Coast Main Line. It is a work of art. Do not get me wrong. It is spectacular what it has achieved. Nothing short of a miracle what it has achieved. But I would argue that it is achieving a lot while sacrificing a lot at the same time, not least intermediate bloody passenger services. So, here is Britain, and here is kind of what the level of usage on our railway looks like, with the very obvious cores, a few kind of fairly sizable hubs, and you say it's 2025 and 2026. Good point, it is 2026. That was 2026, although the 2025, it was a 2025 timetable released in December 25, yeah, cheeky. Here's Britain. Here's where all the kind of the usage is, and generally the way that our railway works when we're deciding how to upgrade it, improve it, add capacity, is that we come up with all sorts of wild justifications for an intervention or multiple interventions. Those then lead the timetable. Almost always that is what happens. We have come up with a bunch of interventions, and those lead the timetable. Actually, Transpennine Route Upgrade, which gets mentioned in the news, has in some places departed a bit from this. Now, if you think about all these things, the clock face timetable, the hierarchy of services, optimized connectivity, making best use of capacity, you see that actually you end up in a situation where, rather than the interventions defining the timetable, what you do is you start with the timetable, and that then leads your interventions. So actually you're going, we need the timetable to do this, and therefore the infrastructure must do this. Now, another very useful blog that I've cribbed from is mediarail.wordpress.com. There's about Deutschland Takt. The great challenges of the clock face timetable is a kind of 2 articles, very worth reading. This graphic actually comes from Deutsche Bahn, talking about how they're going to implement it. And you can see that when it comes to interventions, you've got various hubs, which are a key part of delivering TFP. You can see you've got 65 minutes here, 32 minutes, 92 minutes, 35 minutes. Now, those aren't helpful for a regular rhythm. You need to normalize those journey times. So normalizing it to 60 minutes, so 5-minute journey time improvement, there's your intervention. 30 minutes, well, okay, 2-minute journey time improvement. Okay, there's your intervention. 92 minutes to 90 minutes, 35 minutes to 30 minutes. You start saying this is how you get to the point where you're changing the infrastructure, modifying the infrastructure to match a timetable. Now, ultimately, isn't a timetable the thing that passengers have to live with to make use of for their lives? So maybe our infrastructure should match the timetable, not the other way around. It makes sense that the timetable should lead, not follow, the infrastructure. We should be building our railway network, and indeed a public transport system, that maps onto what humans in the area need to move around, not that they should have to put up with the public transport system as they find it. See also every single rail natter where I talk about, where I grow a network from first principles. This is exactly what we like to do. So I know that people are asking, the danger with Swiss timetable model is that it disincentivizes further journey time reductions unless you can reduce it by around 30 minutes. That's true. That is true. But part of me is like, well, to a point, well, that's where you have high speed to make the big leaps, but actually journey time is less important than improving. If you've got the clock face, I would argue that the journey time improvements of a minute or two beyond that are less important than having the high capacity and the frequency and the predictable timetable, the ability to have a repetitive railway that runs more cost effectively, and therefore you can maximize how many trains you're running and how many seats you're getting in front of passengers. So that BHF there, Bahnhof, as in railway station, yes. Or specifically, it is railway station very much. Right, so, look, HS2, have a look at HS2. You start seeing that you can, you have a situation where you have a similar thing going on here, right? It's a similar situation of, you have a system that you could run, the intercity would be optimized. Fundamentally, you have the hub arrangement. So, HS2 provides those hubs. You need hub and spoke. And so that is absolutely the value. You distributed hub and spoke. And so, it requires more than one hub, and it suits devolution well. So one of the things that HS2 delivered was that it stopped Britain from just having the one hub that is London. It created a bunch of other hubs around the rest of the region as well. So that's kind of a key point, is that TUCT needs a distributed hub and spoke to work. So you have the hub, and then from each of these hubs, you then have the spokes going out that then provide your drumbeat. So each city is the hub, and then you plan the timetable around the drumbeat of the intercity services. So it works on a national basis.